All right, everybody. Good morning. Good early morning. It is 6 a.m. when I am scheduling this video to go up. And that's because by the time we get to 9 a.m., which is usually when I would post a video, we're going to be streaming. So early day today, we are going to be going live at 9 a.m. when day 3 of the draft starts. And we're going to be going until it is over. Remember, just because the Seahawks may use their final pick at 216, that doesn't make it impossible for them to trade into the 7th round. They have done that before. They did that, I remember, in 2020 to take Stephen Sullivan. And I know that people wouldn't be super interested in a late 7th round pick anyway, but just keep in mind that just because they have 2 picks right now doesn't mean they'll have 2 picks when this is all over. So, this video is sponsored by Prize Picks. More on them a little bit later. But I want to talk a little bit about what went down yesterday with the 2 picks the Seahawks made. We had Bud Clark, the safety / nickel corner, and Julian Neal, the outside corner that some people think may end up at safety. So there's a little bit of, it's not entirely clear what these guys will end up doing for the Seahawks, but I think there's a chance that they can do quite a bit. And I think they're going to find something that they can do quite well. So let's try to talk about this a little bit because obviously I was a little bit more optimistic and positive about the picks yesterday than I was the day 1 pick. The day 1 pick I thought was okay. I think you could have done better, and I think that draft pick was driven by need, which I think is always a dangerous proposition. These picks, they were driven by need on some level, I'm sure, but at the same time, I think that they were also appropriate value. I think that both of these players, Bud Clark and Julian Neal, were taken at appropriate draft slots. I think that they are good fits for what we do on defense. And I think that they are picks that are going to make people happy. I gave Bud Clark a B plus, and I gave Julian Neal a B plus. And honestly, I think Neal, you can make a pretty good argument for an A minus. I may even come back around and end up upgrading that a little bit to an A minus when I have the opportunity to really think about it. But point is, yesterday I think was a very good day. Maybe it wasn't an amazing day. I think there were some things they could have done that would have been a little bit better. But when you're talking about something like the NFL draft, it's important to not get tunnel vision. And it's important to understand that the things you're seeing will not always be completely reflected in what other people see. So you want to keep an open mind. And beyond all that, because I can talk about these players at length, and I already have. I've done evaluations of them. I talked about them in the videos I made yesterday. I think that Bud Clark, he's a ball hawk. He's somebody that is totally willing to get his nose dirty in run support. He's willing to play the run. He actually plays the run quite well. He has great speed. He has the frame to add some weight if he needs to. He's, I think, going to be a very good nickel corner in the league and may also be able to pair that with really good safety play. Some people even think he'll be able to play outside. I don't know about that, but I think he's very good. And Julian Neal, very long, very lengthy, strong, firm corner, somebody that's great in run support and somebody who has the potential to be an excellent zone corner. Just what we need. But beyond just that, the Seahawks have addressed their needs. If you like sports, the best way to make them better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks, all you got to do is pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. It's the daily fantasy stuff, but it's made super easy over there. Whatever sport you're into, give it a shot. And right now, Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is use promo code HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing very easy, and it makes watching the games way more exciting. Be sure to check out the social feeds feature so you can share lineups with your friends and tail partners or even fade their picks. Right now, Prize Picks is offering odds on the NFL draft. You have who's going to go where, what each team is going to do, how many of each position is going to go in each round, and so on and so on. Get on over to Prize Picks. Take advantage of that. So, download Prize Picks today, America's #1 sports app, and remember to use the promo code HMA. And remember, always gamble responsibly. And after everything that I've said over the last couple of days, that might sound like a little bit of a backhanded compliment, but it's not. There is something to be said for that, especially in a year where the team is going to be very good and you're just trying to solidify things to make another Super Bowl run. And going through where the Seahawks sit as of right now with this draft, when you place it up next to the free agency that they just had last month, the Seahawks have done a very good job at replacing what they lost with players in this draft. They've replaced Walker, they've replaced Woolen, and they've replaced Kobe Bryant. In some manner of speaking, I don't think they've literally replaced them, but on some level, you can say they have drafted the replacements for those three players. The one guy left over is Boye Mafe, who, I should point out, by the end of the year, wasn't even really playing all that much. So, whatever criticisms I may levy against this draft, because I don't think it's an amazing draft, I think it's a good draft overall, I can say that they have done what I would call a good job filling their holes. And for a team that just won the Super Bowl, I can understand the appeal there. Like, you go down this depth chart right now, we're good at quarterback. Running back, it's not the most inspiring group until Charbonnet gets back, but Jadarian Price, Emmanuel Wilson, George Holani, and then whatever you can get out of Kenny McIntosh, and then Charbonnet whenever he gets back, you should be able to piece something decent together behind a good offensive line that will hopefully only get better because they kept their offensive line coach. Receiver is really good, actually. JSN, Cup is still here. Shaheed is still here. Horton, whenever he gets back, as a number 4, you can't ask for much more than that. Bobo's still here for the moment. Cody White, like, receiver's great. Tight end, you are filled up at tight end, man. AJ Barner, really good second year. Arroyo, hopefully we get a little bit more out of him this year. And then Saubert, who, I know he's not a great player, but we liked him so much we extended him in the middle of the year last year, which is pretty rare for a player who isn't elite, right? Like, Eric Saubert's a third string tight end, and we went out of our way to extend him during the season. Offensive line, say whatever you want to say about Anthony Bradford, but if there's one thing that I think Seahawks fans need to learn from what has happened over the last couple of days, this Seahawks team likes Anthony Bradford. They think he's pretty good, or at the very least, they don't think they need to replace him. And I'm not saying I totally agree with that sentiment, but I do think that sentiment has functional legs to stand on. But you look at this offensive line, I know we didn't add really anything to it yet, but you cannot say that this is a deficient offensive line right now. And that even includes the depth, by the way. Remember, Josh Jones, really good swing tackles back. Oluwatimi's still here for the moment. Christian Haynes, I'm not high on him anymore, but he's here. Some people really like Cable Do. So there, you can't really say there's any big deficiency here. If Bradford is a deficiency, by the way, it's a right guard. Right guard is really not that big of a deal. So something to consider here. Like, you have filled these gaps in the roster, even if the way you got there may have been suboptimal. Defensive line is still loaded for the moment and will remain loaded until such a time as Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed start to show that they're not the same guys anymore. Inside linebacker is solid and ready to roll. You've got even good depth there. Cornerback is now reinforced, and that is one thing that is worth pointing out here. You did need to reinforce the corner spot. You had Witherspoon and Job, and then after that, what did you have? You had Nehemiah Pritchett, who is very limited in what he can do, and I like Pritchett, but you got problems there. And then you got Shamar Jean-Charles, who, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything there. I don't know if this team thinks there's something there, or if they just keep him around on the practice squad, basically. But you got Julian Neal now, and he will probably play some this year because injuries happen, and sometimes you go to a dime look. Safety, we had no depth at safety, especially if you consider D'Anthony Bell to be a nickel corner more than a safety. But even if you do count Bell, that doesn't even really qualify. He's a special teamer. So now you have legitimate depth with upside in Bud Clark. The only position the Seahawks seem to have a deficiency at, in my mind, is edge rusher. And you haven't done anything to address that yet, but the thing that I keep coming back to is, number one, you do still have 2 more picks left, and there is a universe where somebody of some utility falls to you in the 6th round. It's not impossible. But even if you throw that out, and I won't blame you for throwing it out, there are several veteran edge rushers this team is capable of signing after the draft, and they probably will. There's been a lot of reporting that Dante Fowler Jr. is going to be signed after the draft. There are going to be other players that you can get even if you don't get Fowler. Von Miller, Cameron Jordan, Jadeveon Clowney. There's probably at least one more guy out there that I'm not even remembering. But this is probably kind of the plan here. The plan was always, we'll take care of edge rusher later in the offseason. And look, our edge rusher room is not going to be great. It's not. D-Law is probably going to slip from where he was last year just because of age. Possibly Nwosu doesn't recreate the early season success he had as a pass rusher and just kind of becomes a solid run defender guy. But at the same time, it's not like it was great last year, right? We had some of these problems last year. Last year, by the end of the season, the only guy who was reliably getting pressure from the edge was D-Law. So we won the Super Bowl with that setup last year. If you replace Boye Mafe with Dante Fowler, and there's a little bit of a drop-off with DeMarcus Lawrence, you're still in about the same place. So that will be taken care of. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is, as I look at this team, yeah, there are a couple things I think you could think about. There are a couple of things that I think are imperfect, but they've taken care of their holes adequately. And if all this ends with the Seahawks winning another Super Bowl or even making it, then it was worth it, right? That's ultimately what the goal is here at the end of the day. And when I talk about the things that I talk about with the draft, like specifically this year, the Jadarian Price pick, I'm always trying to look at things through the lens of, I want to make decisions that build the best possible team over the next decade. I want to make decisions through the lens of, what can I do here that, how should I put this, that makes my team as good as possible for the next decade. But with the way this team is right now, like I said in my Jadarian Price video yesterday, there is an understandable push to try to make the team as good as possible for next year, because the window is now. And I can get behind that. It's a dangerous game, because if you do that and you don't win the Super Bowl, then you kind of get nothing on either side of it. But you have to try. So it is a little bit unfortunate, I think, that we were in a situation where we had things we had to address in this draft, rather than being in a position of being able to just chase the value. I think that's always where you want to be. But other than the price pick, which I still think was a reach, I still think that even by the standards of most professional big boards was a reach. I don't think you reached for Bud Clark, and I don't think you reached for Julian Neal. I think you got pretty good value with those guys. Neal might have even been positive value. So all this to say, Seahawks are looking pretty good for a shot at a repeat right now, and that's very valuable. I'm not here to dismiss that. All right, so I'm going to go live in a few hours. See you guys then. Go Hawks. Everyone have a great rest of your day. And yeah, we'll see if they do anything later today. By the way, I know that today's going to be kind of funky. I'm going to go live, and then it might take 4 hours for us to pick. Maybe more, honestly. I don't know. It's 87 picks between us and the pick, but we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to try to get something good when we get there. All right, everyone have a good rest of your day, or, well, the start of your day. Go Hawks. I'll see you soon. Going live at 9.